Welcome to the end of the truth. At the end of the truth, they are going to be completely destroyed tonight. We're going to kick this bad boy off with Zechariah 3. So, see, I told you we were going to be looking at Zechariah. We're going to be doing a lot of Zechariah today. Zechariah, specifically 3 to 12 in my mind, but I mean, generally the whole book is very messianic. I guess it's very much a product of its time in this looking forward to rescue and salvation. Zechariah is writing around the time of Ezra. So there has been deliverance from Babylon, but a lot of Jews are still stuck in Babylon. There is still this sense of being scattered and chaos and destruction, right? And they're only rebuilding the temple. They're only rebuilding the temple now, right? Or they've just rebuilt it by the time Zechariah is writing. So there's still a lot of like emotional pain underlying it all. So you'll see a lot of like very hopeful language in the passages that we're going to go over. I kind of skipped over some of the judgment passages because they're more so referring to future events. They're still important, but for the sake of time and brevity, we have to keep chugging along here. Otherwise, this stream would be about 3 years long. We are actually going to go through the entirety of Zechariah 3. Then he showed me Joshua the high priest standing before the angel of the Lord with Satan standing at his right side to accuse him. The Lord said to Satan, "The Lord rebuke you, Satan. May the Lord who has chosen Jerusalem rebuke you. Isn't this man a burning stick snatched from the fire?" So I won't step on your Joes too much, Josh. I will just say, the Lord said to the Lord, or the Lord said, "The Lord rebuke you." Kind of weird to talk in the third person like that, unless, you're more than one person. That's neither here nor there. I won't step on your toes too much. Verse 3 through 7. Now Joshua was dressed with filthy clothes as he stood before the angel. So the angel of the Lord spoke to those standing before him, "Take off his filthy clothes." Then he said to him, "See, I have removed your guilt from you, and I will clothe you with splendid robes." Then I said, "Let them put a clean turban on his head." So a clean turban was placed on his head, and they clothed him in garments while the angel of the Lord was standing nearby. Then the angel of the Lord charged Joshua, "This is what the Lord of hosts says. If you walk in my ways and keep my instructions, you will both rule my house and take care of my courts. I will also grant you access among these who are standing here." Verses 3 through 7. I read that like a long time ago, and I immediately went, "Oh, that's messianic." Yeah, so I found, I think it's verse 7 actually, very interesting that he says, "You will both rule my house and take care of my courts." Josh, what is God's house?
In most cases, you tend to find it as the temple and tabernacle.
Who rules over the temple?
Yahweh would be.
Interesting. But Yahweh says to Joshua here, he will rule. Interesting. Hold on to that thought. I also found it interesting here how we have that he's wearing filthy garments, and that it says, "See, I have removed your guilt from you." Right? And so people would be like, well, how can that be? The Messiah, is supposed to be sinless. God made him who knew no sin to become sin. So here we have the idea of the two messiahs. And then we're going to see that a lot throughout Zechariah 3 and generally throughout the book of Zechariah. You're going to see one suffering Messiah, one glorified Messiah. Right here we have a picture of the suffering Messiah, right? Messiah ben Joseph. Now, the suffering Messiah is described in a way that is sometimes shameful and sometimes mournful. Here we have somewhat of a shameful look at him, right? Where he's covered in filthy rags. He's humbled, almost humiliated. I mean, to be before the presence of God, being accused by Satan, to then be covered in just filthy rags, right? As it says, the filthy garments right there in the Tanakh. It's a very humbling thing. But then what happens? His rags are removed and he is glorified, right? He is placed with glorified clothing. And it even says, placed a pure diadem on his head and clothed him in priestly garments as the angel of the Lord stood by. We have a very clear picture of a Messiah who has suffered but is glorified. So if we keep moving forward a little bit here, we get the victorious Messiah, Messiah ben David. "Listen, Joshua, the high priest, you and your colleagues before you, indeed these men are a sign that I am about to bring my servant, the branch. Notice the stone that I have set before Joshua. On that one stone are 7 eyes. I will engrave an inscription on it. This is the declaration of the Lord of hosts, and I will take away the guilt of this land in a single day. On that day, each of you will invite his neighbor to sit under his vine and fig tree. This is the declaration of the Lord of hosts." So I found the name, the branch, very interesting because that's straight up Isaiah 11. That's straight up, almost verbatim, Isaiah 11:1. Right, that out of the roots of Jesse will come a branch, and he will branch out into the nations. And so already we kind of have this picture forming of this victorious Messiah. He is this promised figure from Isaiah 11, he is going to be this king like David, in the same line as David, but his empire is going to spread even further. His kingdom will be into all the nations. God says, once this has taken place, then I will usher in the branch. Once these filthy rags have been removed and there's a glorified Messiah, I will send in the victorious Messiah. So we have an if this, then this. Right? So we need an order of events here. So first, Messiah ben Joseph, then Messiah ben David. First the humiliated, then the victorious. Zechariah 4. And we're only going to do 2 verses here, verses 6 and verse 7, which says, Josh, do you want to read this one? I've been reading the whole time.
Then he explained to me as follows: This is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, said the Lord of hosts. Whoever you are, O great mountain, in the path of Zerubbabel, turn into level ground, for he shall produce that excellent stone. It shall be greeted with shouts of beautiful, beautiful.
What do we get from that? Not by strength or by might, but by the Spirit of the Lord. What kind of victory is this going to be then, Josh, of the Messiah? Is this establishing victory through force?
Nope.
No. Interesting. What kind of victory is he establishing, Josh?
Let's see. It's not by might nor by power, but by the Spirit or by his Ruach. And so it would be by God's presence, just even by his mere presence. O great mountain, the path of Zerubbabel. It's almost like a peaceful, if you will, conquering.
Interesting.
It's just merely is the Spirit, the Ruach is the thing. It's his Ruach, of which is the thing that's doing the victory.
Exactly.
It's his breath, his presence.
It's a breath. It's a spiritual, right? Almost in a way, it's a spiritual victory, right? It's not like a physical establishment.
It's the very thing that he breathes into Adam is the thing that will be the vessel of which victory is brought.
So now tack that onto your bulletin board, right, with the others. That's all we were really in Zechariah 4. That's some English right there. We are going to skip Zechariah 5, just because, again, sake of time. I would love to walk through it more. We're going to go right to 6. And we're going to be looking at verses 9 through 15. The word of the Lord came to me: take an offering from the exiles, from Heldai, from Tobiah, and from Jediah, who have arrived from Babylon, and go that same day to the house of Josiah, son of Zephaniah. Take silver and gold, make crowns, and place them on the head of Joshua, son of Jehozadak, the high priest. You are to tell him, this is what the Lord of hosts says. Here is a man whose name is Branch. He will branch out from his place and build the Lord's temple. Yes, he will build the Lord's temple. He will be clothed in splendor and will sit on his throne and rule. There will also be a priest on his throne. There will be peaceful counsel between the two of them. The crown will reside in the Lord's temple as a memorial to Heldai, Tobiah, Jediah, and Hen, son of Zephaniah. People who are far off will come and build the Lord's temple, and you will know that the Lord of hosts has sent me to you. This will happen when you fully obey the Lord your God. So Josh, what does that sound like?
So it's, take silver and gold, make crowns. So we're building up royalty, place on the head of the high priest, Joshua. So what you got here is a high priest who's being crowned, of which the fun part is that you see parts in the Old Testament where there's like 3 major, what's the one I'm looking for? Offices, I guess you could say, of priest, prophet, and king. And most of the time people can only cover 2, maybe 3, but they tend to fail at the 3. But here you're starting to get the priest is being crowned, so you're getting 2 of those offices. And now the question is this figure also going to be prophet?
So remember, this is the same figure that's crowned and told that he's going to rule over God's house. He is going to fill the office of God. Also get, Joshua, the high priest, in a way he's going to rule alongside the branch, right? So both the high priest and the branch here are both mentioned as rulers, right? So the branch is going to be the one who builds the temple, and he will build the temple. He will be clothed in splendor and will sit on his throne and rule, right? And we get already Joshua ruling in Zechariah 3. You get the branch ruling here in Zechariah 6. Both messiahs are going to be rulers. Now, it seems a lot more so that Messiah ben David is already coming in a glorified state. He is not suffering like Joseph did. He is not going through trials or tribulations. He's not wearing any filthy garments, right? He's just immediately Boom, he is clothed in glory, and he is come, and he is sitting, and he is ruling. So you have the two messiahs. One has to suffer. The other one comes already in victory and comes and delivers victory. And it even makes mention of the stone again, right? The stone from Zechariah 3 with jewels. Now, there is a sense in which this immediate context is the stone refers to Zerubbabel, right? But Zerubbabel is also a messianic figure, right? Portraying what the Messiah will do, right? So the Messiah will build the temple and he will rule over it, right? Which is a very divine thing to do, by the way. Like, I just got to throw that out there. The stone with the jewels from Zechariah 3 is the stone that's being used to build the temple, right? So keep that in mind. All of these passages are connected. They all have the same theme running through them. We have two messiahs, one to suffer, one to rule, well, both to rule, one to suffer, one to bring victory. Both will rule. Both will come and establish an eternal temple, a temple that does not perish, a glorified temple. We will get there. Zechariah 9. I will cut off the chariot from Ephraim and the horse from Jerusalem. The bow of war will be removed, and he will proclaim peace to the nations. His dominion will extend from sea to sea, from the Euphrates River as to the ends of the earth. As for you, because of the blood of your covenant, I will release your prisoners from the waterless cistern. Return to a stronghold, you prisoners who have hope. Today I declare that I will restore double to you. For I will bend Judah as my bow. I will fill that bow with Ephraim. I will rouse your sons Zion against your sons Greece. I will make you like a warrior's sword. Then the Lord will appear over them. His arrow will fly like lightning. The Lord God will sound the trumpet and advance with the southern storms. The Lord of hosts will defend them. They will consume and conquer with sling stones. They will drink and be rowdy as if with wine. They will be as full as the sprinkling basin, like those at the corners of the altar. The Lord their God will save them on that day as the flock of his people, for they are like jewels in a crown sparkling over his land. How lovely and beautiful they will be. Grain will make the young men flourish, and new wine the young women. So what do we gain from Zechariah 9? What do we glean there? So there is a coming king who will be humble, right? Because, generally when a king arrives, he arrives with pomp and circumstance, or at the very least with his guard, in his chariot, with his horses. This king arrives on a donkey, right? So there's a coming king who is humble. Right, so we're kind of returning to that theme of a humble king that we found in Zechariah 3. So he's not coming to make war, right? Because it talks about how, he's breaking the bow, right? He's breaking the bow. The bow of war will be removed. He will proclaim peace to the nations. But then the very next sentence is really interesting, that his dominion will be established, right? And it will extend from sea to sea, from the Euphrates River to the end of the earth. But he doesn't come in conquest, or he doesn't come, I should say, in war. He comes in peace, extends peace, and yet his kingdom extends to the nations. It conquers the nations. So yeah, just kind of that theme of like spiritual conquest, right? Like it's not, he's not coming with war and violence, but rather the nation will become his bow. Judah is his bow. Ephraim, his arrow. Right. And the people are like a warrior's sword, right? It's not this literal, you're going to go and storm the nations and conquer everything and spread by the sword, Islam style. Rather, we are going to come and conquer in peace. So let's keep moving to Zechariah 10.
Ask the Lord for rain in the season of late rain. It is the Lord who causes storms, and he will provide rainstorms for them, grass in the fields for everyone. For the teraphim, I spoke delusion. The agurs predicted falsely, and the dreamers speak lies and console with illusions. That is why my people have strayed like a flock. They suffer for lack of a shepherd. My anger is roused against the shepherds, and I will punish the he-goats. For the Lord of hosts has taken thought in behalf of his flock, the house of Judah. He will make them like a majestic charge in battle. For them shall come cornerstones, from them tent pegs, from them bows of combat, and every captain shall also arise from them. And together they shall be like warriors in battle, tramping in the dirt of the streets. They shall fight, for the Lord shall be with them. They shall put horsemen to shame. I will give victory to the horse of Judah and triumph to the house of Joseph. I will restore them, for I have pardoned them, and they shall be as though I have never disowned them. For I, the Lord, am their God, and I will answer their prayers.
Firstly, goats. See, I didn't actually look at like the interlinear for Zechariah 10. I just kind of ran out of time. HCSB translates that as I will punish the leaders. I will punish the he-goats so much more. That is so funny. Anyways, so what do we have? What stuck out to you, Josh? I want to know that first.
He talks about, I think what's interesting is how he talks about why his people have strayed like a flock. they suffer for a lack of a shepherd. I think that's just really interesting because so much of that language plays into, well, a lot of the Old Testament, but also what Jesus talks about in Matthew, I think specifically, mentions a lot about being the shepherd and then like the lost, not even just like the parable of the lost sheep, but just like the people and their following and shepherd language. Let me see. There was something else, I think. For the Lord of forsaken thought on behalf of his flock. For them shall come cornerstones, from them tent pegs, from them bows of combat, and every captain shall also arise from them, and together they also will be like warriors in battle, tramping the dirt of the streets. They shall fight, for the Lord shall be with them. I think it's interesting you're getting this whole, they are going to be like this military, and that he is back with them. So we've had all this peace language, and now you have him being the presence that they will have the ability to go and have triumph over the enemies, if you will. His conquering initially will be peaceful, but he's going to equip them for the next bit of conquest that they are tasked with.
Right. So it is kind of, again, that theme of like the two different comings, right? So you have the coming in victory, which is the coming in conquest, and you have the coming in, I don't want to say shame, but like, the coming in suffering, which is the coming in peace, right? So it's kind of cool to see them, that continual theme coming throughout the book. Zechariah 12, 1 through 10.
A pronouncement, the word of the Lord concerning Israel, the utterance of the Lord who stretched out the skies and made firm the earth and created man's breath within him.
Okay, so verse 1. We've been through a pretty good portion of Zechariah together today. Where have you seen a statement like that? That is the most grandiose opening regarding who God, right? Like that is just setting up. God is, right? Like God is just dominant over everything. He created everything. He created the sky itself. He made the earth, and he even made you.
Yeah, that's calling back Genesis 1 and 2. Like straight.
Exactly.
That's like a paraphrase of Genesis 1 and 2 right there. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a bowl of reeling for the peoples all around. Judah shall be caught up in the siege upon Jerusalem. When all the nations of the earth gather against her, in a day I will make Jerusalem a stone for all the people to lift. All who lift it shall injure themselves.
Endure.
I know.
Yeah. So injuries aside, so verse 1 sets up this big moment from God, right? Where it's, by the way, remember that God is all powerful, right? We're setting up this big thing to happen. Verse 2 to 3 tell you where it's going to happen. Jerusalem and Judah. Right? So we have this building up. Verses 4 through 7, please.
In that day, declares the Lord, I will strike every horse with panic and its rider with madness, but I will watch over the house of Judah while I strike. I just read that twice. No. But I watch over the house of Judah while I strike every horse of the peoples with blindness. And the clans of Judah will say to themselves, the dwellers of Jerusalem are a task set for us by their God, the Lord of hosts. In that day, I will make the clans of Judah like a flaming brazier, coming among sticks, and like a flaming torch among sheaves. They shall devour all the besieging people right and left, and Jerusalem shall continue on its site in Jerusalem. The Lord shall give victory to the tents of Judah first, so that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem may not be too great for Judah.
So what stuck out to you there, Josh? I actually want to hear your thoughts first.
That kept tripping on my words.
After that, what was your thought?
So first off, you have the beginning of verse 4 is similar to Exodus with the panic of the writers. This is like Exodus decreation language. It's variation. And then it talks about giving them blindness, so they will lose their sight. So again, that decreation, that cursing, the removing of the blessing. That's the first thing that stuck out to me. They shall devour all the besieging peoples right and left, and Jerusalem shall continue on its site in Jerusalem. So you have that they will be victorious language there. And then it says that the Lord will give victory to the tents of Judah first. So that would be the southern kingdom. So that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem may not be too great for Judah. And so you have a very specific talking about the house of David with regarding its people group.
Yes, and what I kind of like there is that God's like, but first it's going to come from Judah.
Mm.
It's not going to start in Jerusalem. The glory, the victory is first going to hit Judah. Then it's going to come for Jerusalem and the house of David. So it's building, right? It keeps building. Just as you were talking about, especially it's not only just building on this moment, but it's building on all the moments from the past too, right? There's this event that's coming that it's culminating.
Yeah, they're building up all this description of what's going to be happening positively with Judah, the line of David, and it's using all this language from the text that would know, like, oh, so this is a recreation moment, this is a decreation moment, this is going to be the new, almost like a new Israel type of thing.
Yes, there will be a coming of a sort of new covenant, I guess you could say. Did I ham fist that insufficiently for you?
Yes. In that day, the Lord will shield the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the feeblest of them shall be in that day like David, and the house of David like a divine being, like an angel of the Lord at their head. In that day, I will all but annihilate all the nations that come up against Jerusalem.
Interesting. The house of David like a divine being, like the angel of the Lord. Interesting. Yes. So why would I bring up the angel of the Lord here? Why would I highlight that section specifically?
Because typically the angel of the Lord, or Malach Yahweh, deals with the messenger that comes, but also comes in the status of bearing God's name or having the name of Yahweh in him, or really being just straight up called Yahweh frequently throughout the Torah.
As we saw in the beginning of Zechariah 3. So interesting. So we have this divine person present here. And like my interlinear has it as the angel of Jehovah, angel capitalized. And then it says, it's interesting to me at least, that it says the house of David will be like the angel of the Lord. Like in what sense? But I will fill the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem with my spirit and compassion, of pity and compassion, and they will lament to me about those who are slain, wailing over them as a favorite son showing. The Hebrew there, and as far as I've seen, every English translation has it, and I'll read from the Hebrew here. And I will pour out on the house of David and on the inhabitants of Jerusalem this spirit of grace and of prayers. And they shall look on me whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourns for an only son, and shall be bitter over him like the brightness over the firstborn. Sorry, the print is really small. Look upon me whom they have pierced. What does he mean that he will be, that when he says they will look upon me whom they have pierced? How can God be pierced?
You have to be there in a physical state.
Interesting. And why does he change person in the middle of his sentence? They will look upon me whom they have pierced, and they will mourn for him.
Playing into that two Yahwehs.
Interesting. And now we have talked about the fact that the Messiah, in order to rule over God's house, must be God. So we have a pierced God and a suffering Messiah. And that suffering Messiah is God.
And the one being pierced by the lookers.
So that's the end of our time in Zechariah. We got two Messiahs. One's going to suffer. One's going to be victorious. Both will rule, but one is God who is stabbed, or pierced, I should say, was pierced. Okay. Can we identify at least the Messiah? Can we at least identify him? Let's go to Psalm 2.
A suffering one.
Yes, we can. Let's go to Psalm 2. All right, we're aiming to identify either Messiah right now. Why do the nations rebel and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth take their stand, and the rulers conspire together against the Lord and his anointed one. Let us tear off their chains and free ourselves from their restraints. That's the quote from the rulers who are conspiring. I love this verse. The one enthroned in heaven laughs. The Lord ridicules them. The one enthroned in heaven laughs. The Lord ridicules them. Then he speaks to them in his anger and terrifies them in his wrath. I have consecrated my king on Zion, my holy mountain. Now we talked a lot about that in Zechariah. We've got some interplay here. I will declare the Lord's decree. He said to me, you are my son. Today I have become your father. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your inheritance, and the ends of the earth your possession. You will break them with a rod of iron. You will shatter them like pottery. So now, kings, be wise. Receive instruction, you judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with reverential awe, and rejoice with trembling. Pay homage to the Son, or he will be angry, and you will perish in your rebellion. For his anger may ignite at any moment. All those who take refuge in him are happy. So we get this picture of the Messiah, right, the anointed one, as it says in verse 2. As the Son of God, in whom there should be fear and awe and respect and pleading for favor. So this, in my mind, at the very least, definitely fits the victorious Messiah. He already has this glory. He is already the Son of God. So we've identified now this victorious Messiah is the Son of God. Identity there. So surely, if one is claiming to be the Son of God, he is claiming to be the Messiah. He's claiming a divine office for himself. Right? We need to know something specific. What is the relationship between these Messiahs? We're going to go to Hosea 6. Now, keep in mind what we talked about way back when we talked about Zechariah 10. Which is the reign. Zechariah 10:1. Keep that in mind. So, Hosea 6:1-3. Come, let us return to the Lord, for he has torn us, and he will heal us. He has wounded us, he will bind our wounds up. He will revive us after 2 days, and on the third day he will raise us up, exclamation point, red flag, so we can live in his presence. Let us strive to know the Lord. His appearance is as sure as the dawn. He will come to us like the rain, like spring showers that water the land. And we shall know, we who follow on to know Yahweh, his going forth is established as the dawn, and he shall come to us as the rain, as the latter and former rain to the earth. Now, and it has here the Hebrew words for former and latter, right? And I think I should have actually included verse 4 because it's kind of important, because he goes on to continue to talk about the early dew. What is Hosea comparing the rains to?
His coming.
The coming of God, who we have established, the Messiah is God, and he will be coming. Right? So we can, and given that, this is the book of the 12, right? A lot of people don't know that the minor prophets, as we call them, were all one book.
Yeah, they're on one scroll.
So this is all a part of one thing, right? So the readers would have read starting here at Hosea, going all the way to Malachi, would have read that all as one. And so they would have read this and understood that, okay, we are still talking about the same figure, the same coming in Zechariah, right? They didn't have that breakup like we do. They would have just been reading this across. So we have here the former and the latter rains, as my interlinear puts it. I think the interlinear is just kind of doing the interpretive legwork there. The former rains is a reference to the autumn rains, which mark the planting season. They mark the season where the soil becomes fertile and the seeds can begin to really take root, right? The rains first soften the soil, and then throughout the planting season, which is the former rains soften the soil, allow for easier planting, and then water the seeds once planted. So we get this idea of the first coming of the rains, which plants the seeds, essentially, or is the cause of the planting of the seeds. The latter rains describes the harvest rains, right, in the spring. That's where you get the spring showers reference, right? So we get first the rain and then the spring showers. Those are two different things. The Jews understood that as two different comings of the rain. But, and this is critical, and you can go and read about this in the Epistle of James. He mentions it as well. We're going to stick in the Old Testament for now. They understood the rains as the same thing. There was a start with the former rains, and the latter rains was the end of the same thing. Two comings, one substance. That's what's being portrayed here in Hosea 6. The Lord's coming will be two. He will come first to plant the seeds, and then the second time at the harvest, right? The time when the rains give the last nutrients to the plants are gathered up and then taken. That's what's being portrayed here, which tells us then, if we are combining Psalm 2 with the victorious Messiah, who is God, and Zechariah, specifically Zechariah 12, with the suffering Messiah, who is God, was pierced. Right, we have the first coming, which is Zechariah 3 laid out, is the Messiah. Zechariah 3 laid out. First, the Messiah, Ben Joseph, had to suffer. He had to have the filthy rags and then be purified. And then the branch comes. Right, so we get first Messiah ben Joseph, then Messiah ben David. Hosea 6 makes it clear those are the same person. We get first the suffering, the coming of the Messiah, and he suffers, then the coming of the Messiah in victory. We have Hosea 6 making it clear those are the same person. Two comings, one substance. That's the takeaway here. The coming of the Lord is compared to two comings, one substance. Almost committed heresy there. Barely avoided it, because that's how we roll. That's when I text Josh, God is so cool. To have that line in Zechariah 10, all the way back in Zechariah 10, have the line, ask the Lord for rain in the season of spring rain. The Lord makes the rain clouds. He will give them showers of rain and crops in the field for everyone. God is going to provide this victorious coming. We need to be in prayer for it. We need to be seeking it out. But when did the suffering Messiah come? Now we're going to switch to the polemic, right? We've been doing a lot of background, a lot of explanation, a little bit of apologetics, but now we're going to switch to the polemic. Do we know when the first coming is, right? So we know that we will have a suffering Messiah who is pierced and then will return in victory. Right? So we have that same person who is going to be both Messiah ben Joseph and Messiah ben David. Now we need to figure out, when is the Messiah ben Joseph? When is he coming as Messiah ben Joseph? This same one person. Daniel chapter 9. We are going to be aiming for verses 24 through 27. 70 weeks are decreed about your people and your holy city, to bring the rebellion to an end, to put a stop to sin, to wipe away iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy place. Know and understand this. From the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince will be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. It will be rebuilt with a plaza and a moat, but in difficult times. After those 62 weeks, the Messiah will be cut off and will have nothing. The people of the coming prince will destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end will come with a flood, and until the end, there will be war. Desolations are decreed. He will make a firm covenant with many for 1 week, but in the middle of the week, he will put a stop to the sacrifice and offering, and the abomination of desolation will be on a wing of the temple until the decreed destruction is poured out on the desolator. A lot to unpack there. Now, a lot of people here jump to the timetable, right, and say, well, we've got the 70 of 70s. The timetable, frankly, is irrelevant to me here. What is plain in the text, regardless of how you want to look at it, is that the Messiah comes before the destruction of the temple. The destruction of the temple occurs in 70 AD. Ergo, the Messiah must come before 70 AD. You cannot get around that, but some try to. Some say that this is not the Messiah, but simply an anointed one. But this definitely does not mesh well with the rest of Daniel. Particularly not Daniel 7. Yeah, it doesn't make sense with the rest of Daniel, right? Because let's take this little discussion we had. Daniel 7, the Son of Man riding on the clouds of heaven. Josh would be the first one to tell you that is an exceptionally divine event and a very divine claim. And then that's followed up by this discussion. Then others will object and say that this prophecy was contingent. This prophecy in Daniel 9, that is, but that Israel's sin disqualified it. Some will say, well, it was contingent upon the sin of Israel, and Israel was sinful, therefore the Messiah did not come. And so I would like to propose the following questions. 1, what was Israel's sin that was so great it prevented the coming of the Messiah? In the first century, what is Israel's sin that is so extensive that the Messiah was like, nope, not coming right now? 2, and why is it that the sin was so great as to prevent the fulfillment of one half of the prophecy, but not the other? Why is it that the temple is still destroyed, so that part of the prophecy still comes true, but not the Messiah's coming? Would that not give people the false impression that the Messiah had already come? If Jesus is not in fact the Messiah, but he is the most Messiah-like figure you get before the temple is destroyed, would people not then make the connection of, okay, he is the Messiah, right? That's in the event that Jesus is not the Messiah. 3rd, if the sin in Israel is so great in the first century, why do you trust any of the theology that comes out of that time? Unitarian Judaism and the foundations of rabbinic tradition come from the first century. Historically, that's just a fact. How could you trust such sinful men who do not write words guided by God, right? You do not consider scripture to have originated from that time. How can you trust them with the future of your faith? Those are the 3 questions from Daniel 9. If you're going to say that the prophecy was contingent upon the sins of Israel, or it has not come to fruition yet, how then? You have to answer those 3 questions then, right? So what was the sin that prevented the Messiah? Why was only part of the prophecy fulfilled? And how can you trust such sinful Israel? Zechariah, Messiah in humility and suffering, Messiah in glory and victory. Psalm 2, Messiah is the Son of God. Hosea 6, the 2 comings are still one person. Daniel 9, that person has already come. The first coming has happened. That needs to be accounted for. If it's not accounted for, then I think we can move on.